Under the cold shimmer of highway lights, a lone truck roars through the night. Its headlights slice through the mist like two desperate eyes searching for something lost long ago. Inside that truck sits a woman, her face calm but weary, her hands steady on the wheel as miles of asphalt stretch endlessly ahead. On the rearview mirror hangs a small, faded teddy bear. Its blue fur has turned gray with time, one arm sewn clumsily with an old thread, and a golden star stitched across its chest. To anyone else, it's just a forgotten toy. But to her, it's home. Her name is Hannah Carter, a 29-year-old truck driver who spends more time on the road than in her own bed. Every night, she talks to that teddy bear like an old friend, the only witness to her loneliness, her laughter, and the silent tears no one ever sees. She doesn't know where she truly came from. All she remembers is the orphanage in Tacoma, and the bear that's been with her ever since, a relic of a past she never understood, but one that somehow made her feel safe. Yet tonight feels different. The road hums like it's whispering secrets, and the bear sways gently with every bump, as if guiding her towards something waiting beyond the next turn. Voiceover, soft and reflective. Sometimes the things we dismiss as worthless carry the heaviest stories. Sometimes the past doesn't fade. It simply hides, waiting for the right moment to return. The camera drifts from her face to the reflection of the teddy bear in the windshield, a symbol of innocence, survival, and forgotten truth. In the distance, city lights begin to rise, Bellevue, Washington, where Hannah's next delivery awaits. She doesn't know it yet, but that small toy will soon unravel a secret buried for more than 2 decades. A secret that ties her to a billionaire, a family torn apart by greed, and a love that refused to die. As her truck thunders past a sign reading "Welcome to Bellevue," a soft classical tune fades in, a melody that feels hauntingly familiar. Hannah's grip tightens on the steering wheel. Somewhere deep inside, her soul stirs. Because sometimes fate doesn't knock. It rides quietly in the passenger seat, in the form of a worn-out teddy bear. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories, they're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. To most people, she's just another face behind the wheel of a roaring 18-wheeler, hauling boxes through the endless highways of America. But for Hannah, the road isn't just a job. It's her refuge and her prison. Every night begins the same way. The low hum of the diesel engine, the flickering neon lights of gas stations, the faint smell of coffee that's been reheated too many times. She drives through cities that never sleep in towns so small they don't even have a name. In her truck, there's no one to talk to, no one to argue with, no one to comfort her. Except for Dusty, the faded blue teddy bear dangling from her rearview mirror. Dusty's fur is worn thin, one ear half torn, and there's a little golden star stitched across its chest, crooked but carefully done, like someone's first attempt at love. To anyone else, it's junk. But to Hannah, Dusty is more than a toy. It's the one constant in a life that's always moving, a silent witness to every sleepless night and every tear she refuses to shed. She found Dusty beside her when she was just a little girl, abandoned outside St. Mary's Orphanage in Tacoma. No birth certificate, no name, no memory of how she got there. Only the bear, clutched in her tiny hands, and a thin scar on her arm that no one could explain. Growing up, she would lie awake in the orphanage dormitory, staring at the ceiling and listening to the faint echo of classical music in her dreams. Soft violin, gentle piano melodies that didn't belong in that cold, silent place. In those dreams, she always saw a warm light, a tall man reading stories, and the smell of expensive perfume floating in the air. When she woke, all she had was the bear. Life taught her not to ask too many questions. When you don't have a family, you learn to build your own rhythm, 1 mile at a time. After aging out of the system at 18, she worked whatever job she could find. Waitress, cashier, mechanic, apprentice, until she saved enough to get her commercial license and buy a second-hand truck. Now, after 11 years on the road, Hannah has grown used to solitude. She knows the language of the highway better than the sound of her own heartbeat. The CB radio is her only connection to the world, voices of strangers she'll never meet. Sometimes when the night gets too quiet, she whispers to Dusty, "Do you think someone's looking for me?" The bear, of course, never answers. But somehow its presence makes the silence softer. To the world, Hannah Carter is just a truck driver delivering packages. To herself, she's a wanderer chasing a memory she can't name. And a melody that won't let her go. Rain streaked down the windshield in long silver lines as Hannah's truck rumbled through the empty roads of Bellevue Hills. The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels too intentional, like the world was holding its breath. She checked the GPS again. The address blinked. Edward Langley, Langley Estate. Her last delivery of the day, and she was nearly an hour late. When the iron gates came into view, towering and ornate, she slowed to a stop. Beyond them stood a mansion so large it looked like it belonged in another century. Hannah pressed the call button beside the gate. A camera light blinked. Then a sharp British accented voice came through. "State your purpose." "Amazon Logistics," she said. "Delivery for Mr. Edward Langley." There was a pause. Then with a reluctant buzz, the gate slid open. She drove through slowly, the gravel crunching beneath her tires. The mansion loomed ahead, its windows glowing faintly like watchful eyes. When she stepped out, the rain immediately kissed her jacket. She grabbed the small brown box from the passenger seat and glanced at the dashboard. Beside it sat Dusty, her old stuffed bear, its fur worn, one eye missing. She smiled faintly. "Wish me luck, buddy." At the massive oak door, she rang the bell. The chime echoed through the hall like the opening note of an old memory. The door opened to reveal Edward Langley. Silver hair slicked back, posture regal, eyes sharp as glass. Everything about him screamed control. "You're late," he said immediately. "Do you have any idea what time it is?" "I'm sorry, sir. Traffic on." "I don't want excuses. This is a professional establishment, not a street corner." His voice cut through her like frost. Hannah's jaw tensed, but she kept her composure. She handed him the package. "Sign here, please." He hesitated, then snatched the pen and scribbled his name. His eyes, for a brief second, fell to her arm, where Dusty's head peeked from her jacket pocket. The man froze. His entire expression changed, eyes wide, face drained of color. Where did you get that bear?" Hannah blinked. "This? It's mine. Had it since I was little." Edward took a slow step forward, his hand trembling. "No, that's impossible." He stared at Dusty as if seeing a ghost. "That bear, there's a mark behind its ear. A small stitched heart." Hannah frowned, then turned Dusty over. There it was, a tiny pink heart sewn in faded thread. She had always wondered who had stitched it. Edward staggered back, pressing a hand to his mouth. His voice broke. "That was my daughter's bear." The silence that followed felt too big for the room. Rain pounded against the windows. Thunder rolled somewhere far away. Hannah stared at him, unsure if this was some cruel joke. "I think you've mistaken me for someone else," she said quietly. But Edward only shook his head, eyes glistening with disbelief. "No, I never forget a face. And I never forget what I've lost." For a long moment they just stood there. Two strangers connected by a broken thread of time neither understood. Then Edward's tone hardened again, as if ashamed of his own reaction. "You should go," he said curtly. "Now." Hannah hesitated, wanting to ask 100 questions, but something in his trembling hands told her this wasn't the moment. She turned and walked back to her truck, feeling his eyes on her until she disappeared into the rain. As she drove away, she glanced at Dusty again. The bear's missing eye seemed to look back, quiet, knowing. And for the first time, Hannah felt that perhaps Dusty had been carrying a secret all along. The next morning, Hannah couldn't shake it off. Edward Langley's reaction replayed in her head on a loop. His sudden fear, his trembling voice, that strange certainty when he saw Dusty. She parked at a roadside diner for coffee, her truck humming softly in the background. The smell of rain still lingered in the air. She sat by the window, turning Dusty in her hands like a clue she didn't know how to read. Who was that man? And why did he act like he knew her? As she sipped her coffee, a gravelly voice interrupted her thoughts. "Cute bear," someone said. She looked up to see a man in his late 60s, broad shoulders, kind eyes, a trucker's cap that had seen better days. "Thanks," Hannah replied, polite but distant. The man slid into the booth opposite her without asking. Name's Sam. Been driving these roads 40 years. Haven't seen you around. Hannah smiled faintly. Just started with Amazon. Keeps the lights on. Sam nodded, then pointed to Dusty. You keep that thing with you all the time? Pretty much, she said. He's been with me since before I can remember. Sam's eyes lingered on the bear, too long, too focused. You ever notice the stitching behind its ear? The question made her freeze. Why? She asked slowly. Sam just shrugged, taking a sip of his coffee. No reason. Just that kind of stitching, you don't see it anymore. Used to be handmade. Someone really loved that bear. There was something about the way he said it, soft, almost nostalgic, that made Hannah's chest tighten. She laughed awkwardly. Yeah, I guess so. As they talked, Sam's manner was friendly, but every now and then, he'd glance at her with a strange recognition. When she mentioned the Langley estate, his expression shifted ever so slightly. You went up there? He asked. Last night. Weird guy. Said he recognized Dusty. Sam leaned back, his eyes thoughtful. Edward Langley, that name still echoes around here. Lost his daughter 20 years ago. Vanished without a trace. Hannah's hand tightened around her cup. You're kidding. No, Sam said quietly. Police found her toys near a lake, but no body. Just that one clue. A bear with a pink heart behind its ear. Her pulse quickened. That can't be. You're saying this bear. Sam looked her dead in the eyes. Might have belonged to her. Silence filled the space between them. The hum of the diner faded. For a brief moment, Hannah felt the world tilt. Memories flickering in fragments. A music box tune, sunlight on marble floors, the smell of roses. Then Sam's tone softened again. Sometimes life circles back, kid. Maybe you were meant to go there. Before she could ask more, Sam checked his watch and stood. Gotta hit the road. Be careful out there. And keep that bear close. He left some bills on the table and walked out, his reflection vanishing in the glass. Hannah sat frozen. Something about that man's eyes felt familiar too, like she had seen them before, somewhere deep in the half-remembered dreams of her childhood. When she finally stepped outside, the morning sun had broken through the clouds. Her truck gleamed under the light, and Dusty sat waiting on the seat like an old secret refusing to stay buried. As she climbed in, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her from afar. Maybe from another truck, parked just out of sight. Or maybe from the mansion she'd left behind. The highway stretched out ahead, endless and uncertain. And in her chest, a quiet truth began to stir. Something had started the moment Edward Langley looked into her eyes. A story long buried was waking up. The night swallowed the road again. After hours of driving through endless stretches of highway, Hannah finally pulled into a deserted rest stop near Spokane. The air was thick with silence, the kind that made the world feel hollow. She was about to shut off the engine when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. A smooth male voice replied, calm and professional. Miss Carter? This is Marcus from Denver Freight Solutions. We got your number from your supervisor. We're short on drivers tonight. And your record's impressive. She frowned. I didn't apply for any job. It's a one-time contract, Marcus said quickly. Urgent delivery, confidential cargo, pays $6,000. Straight run to Denver. No stops. You'll get a bonus if you can leave in the next hour. $6,000. That was more than a week's work, and her rent was late. Hannah's mind raced. Something about his voice sounded too smooth, rehearsed, but desperation always makes hesitation fade. Text me the pickup address, she said finally. Marcus chuckled softly. Already did. You'll find it's a small private warehouse outside Yakima. Don't be late, Mad. He stopped himself, corrected. Miss Carter. Hannah blinked. What did you just call me? Sorry, he said quickly. Must have misspoken. Long day. Then the line went dead. A chill slid down her spine. She looked at Dusty on the dashboard. You heard that, right? He said, Maddie. The bear, of course, said nothing, but something in its worn face made her uneasy. The warehouse stood at the edge of an industrial district, surrounded by skeletal streetlights and silence. The sign read Langley Storage Incorporated. Her heart gave a strange jolt at the name. She parked the truck and stepped out, her boots crunching against the gravel. A single bulb flickered above the loading dock. She knocked. No answer. When she turned to leave, her phone buzzed again. "Marcus, drive inside. Someone will meet you." The gate was already half open. Against her better judgment, she got back in and slowly rolled the truck forward. The darkness seemed to swallow her whole. Then, a metallic clang behind her. The gate shut. Hannah's breath caught. Her instincts screamed run. She reached for the gearshift just as a blinding light snapped on from above. Shadows moved, 3, maybe 4 men, faces hidden by black hoods circling the truck. "What the hell is this?" she shouted, but no one answered. One of them smashed her side mirror. Another tried to yank open the driver's door. Panic surged. She slammed her foot on the gas. The engine roared. The truck shot forward, crashing through stacked crates and metal barrels. Sparks flew as debris scraped the undercarriage. One man jumped aside just in time. "Get her!" someone yelled behind her. She tore through the loading bay, the rear doors rattling. A bullet shattered the passenger side window. Hannah ducked, heart pounding. The exit ahead glowed faintly. An emergency gate. She aimed for it. Bam! The truck burst through, metal screeching, glass exploding. Outside, 2 SUVs roared to life, headlights slicing through the darkness. Hannah swerved onto the highway, tires squealing. The chase was on. The road became a blur of motion. Headlights flashing, engines snarling, rain coming down in violent sheets. Hannah gripped the wheel, blood rushing in her ears. The SUVs closed in from both sides. Come on," she muttered, slamming the accelerator. The truck shook under the strain. She spotted a narrow service road up ahead and veered into it. Gravel sprayed. One of the SUVs fishtailed, crashing into a ditch. But the second one stayed on her tail. A white van joined in from the opposite lane, boxing her in. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Against all reason, she hit speaker. "Hannah Carter," she shouted. "Who the hell are you people?" For a moment, only static. Then a calm female voice answered, low, haunting, almost gentle. "Maddie, it's me." Hannah froze. That name again. "Who is this?" she demanded. The woman's voice trembled. "You have to trust me. They're trying to bring you back. Don't go to Denver. Don't trust Marcus." "What are you talking about? You were never Hannah," the voice whispered. "Your name is Madeline Langley." The world spun. The tires screeched as the truck skidded on the wet road. "That's not true," she cried out, half to herself, half to the voice. But then the woman said something that made her blood run cold. "Look inside Dusty's heart." The call cut off. Behind her, the van tried to ram the back of her truck. She fought the wheel, adrenaline surging. Through the rearview mirror she saw flashes, men shouting, a gun raised. She ducked just as another shot shattered the back window. She swerved again, this time toward a bridge. The white van tried to block her, but she braked sharply, letting it overtake, and then rammed it from behind. The van spun out, crashed against the guardrail, sparks flying into the night. When the road finally cleared, Hannah's breathing was ragged. She drove for miles, too afraid to stop, too confused to think. The radio crackled softly, and then, faintly, through static and distortion, came the same woman's voice again. "Maddie, come home." Hannah's hands trembled. Dusty lay on the seat beside her, its stitched heart catching the dim dashboard light. Somewhere inside that old bear, inside her own forgotten past, waited an answer that could change everything. The rain had turned to sleet by the time Hannah crossed into the mountain pass. The truck's wipers clawed frantically at the windshield, fighting against the storm that swallowed the Rockies. Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel, her breath shallow and sharp. She didn't dare stop. Behind her, faint in the distance, headlights cut through the mist, still following. The same black SUV that had tried to run her off the road. Whoever they were, they weren't giving up. Her radio crackled again. For a long moment, just static, and then a voice. Calm. Cold. Female. "Still running, Maddie?" Hannah froze. The sound of her name, not Hannah but Maddie, sent a jolt through her. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Why do you keep calling me that?" A low chuckle echoed through the speakers, the kind that sounded both elegant and cruel. "You really don't remember, do you?" the voice said. "That's the beauty of trauma. It protects you from the truth, until it's too late." The name appeared on the digital radio display. E. Langley. Hannah's pulse spiked. Langley, she whispered. As in Edward Langley? Oh, so you've met my dear brother, Evelyn Langley replied, her voice dripping with disdain. He must have been shocked to see you. I can only imagine his face when he recognized that little bear. Dusty hung from the mirror, swaying gently with every curve of the road, the faded stitching, the star-shaped patch on its chest. It suddenly felt alive, heavy with meaning. What do you want from me? Hannah said, trying to keep her voice steady. Evelyn's tone hardened. What I want is irrelevant. What matters is who you are. Or rather, who you were meant to be. The SUV's headlights drew closer, almost blinding now. Hannah floored the gas pedal. The truck growled, climbing higher into the mountains. Snow began to fall, thick and relentless. You're lying, Hannah hissed. Evelyn only laughed, a low, chilling sound. Oh, Maddie, you were so small the night Jack took you. Barely 7. Your father, the great Edward Langley, was throwing one of his lavish galas, champagne, string quartets, all the trappings of power. And upstairs in your pink bedroom, you slept with that ridiculous bear. Hannah's chest tightened. Stop. But Jack couldn't do it, Evelyn continued unfazed. I paid him to make sure you disappeared forever, a tragic kidnapping gone wrong. But the coward had a conscience. He couldn't kill a child. So he left you on the steps of St. Mary's Orphanage in Tacoma. And you, my dear, became Hannah Carter. Hannah shook her head violently, tears blurring her vision. No, that can't be true. Oh, but it is, Evelyn whispered, her voice soft and poisonous. Ask your precious bear. It's been carrying the truth all along. Something inside Hannah cracked open. A memory faint and fragile. A girl in a silk nightgown clutching a blue bear. The sound of glass shattering. A man's voice shouting. And a woman's perfume, strong, floral, suffocating, wrapping around the terror like a veil. Why? Hannah choked. Why would you do that to a child? Evelyn's voice sharpened. Because you were the child that stole everything from me. You were the heir, the golden one. Edward's perfect little angel. I was the sister who built the empire, and yet he chose you to inherit it someday. So I corrected the mistake. The radio hissed as thunder cracked above the peaks. Hannah's truck lurched around a bend, the tires skidding dangerously close to the cliff's edge. The SUV was gaining. She could hear its engine growling like a beast behind her. Pull over, Maddie, Evelyn ordered. It's time you came home. Home? Hannah spat. You destroyed my home before I ever had one. The radio went silent. Then a new voice cut through the static, rough, male strained. Don't listen to her, Maddie. Hannah gasped. Who? It's Jack, the voice said. Jack Malone. Her heart stopped. That's impossible. Evelyn said you were dead. I should be, he rasped. She tried to kill me after I saved you. I've been hiding for 20 years. The radio crackled again, their voices overlapping. Evelyn shouting now, furious. Shut up, you coward. You ruin everything. But Jack pressed on. Maddie, listen. The bear, Dusty. It's got a metal chip inside under the star patch. I sewed it in before I left you. It's proof of what she did. Evelyn's confession, the money transfer, everything. That's why they're chasing you. Don't stop until you find your father. Hannah's breath came fast and shallow. Where are you? I'm near the pass at mile marker 218. Keep going. Gunshots ripped through the night. Static. Then silence. Jack. Hannah screamed into the mic. Jack. No answer. Only the wind, howling like a wounded animal through the canyon. Her headlights cut through the snow just in time to reveal a twisted wreck at the side of the road. A pickup truck smashed against the rocks. Flames licked the frame. Through the windshield, a shadow slumped over the wheel. Hannah's throat closed. She couldn't stop. Not with the SUV still behind her, but the image burned into her mind. Jack Malone had tried to make things right, and paid for it with his life. The storm intensified. The road narrowed. Her truck groaned under the climb. The SUV rammed her from behind, metal crunching against metal. Evelyn's voice returned, louder now, booming through every speaker. You can't escape who you are, Maddie. Even your mother couldn't. She tried to leave too. Look where that got her. The memory hit like a thunderbolt. A woman's scream, a gunshot, the smell of blood. My mother, Hannah whispered. She didn't die in that fire, Evelyn said with eerie calm. I made sure of it. That was the final spark. Rage surged through Hannah like wildfire. You want Maddie Langley? She shouted. Then come get her. She slammed the truck into high gear, veering into the next curve. The SUV followed too closely. Hannah yanked the wheel and hit the brakes. The massive trailer jackknifed sideways, blocking the road. The SUV had no time to stop. It plowed into the side of her truck, metal screeching, glass exploding. Flames erupted. Hannah jumped out, rolling into the snow. Behind her, the SUV slid toward the edge, teetering for a breathless second before plunging into the ravine below. Silence. Only the hiss of snow on burning metal. Hannah stood, bruised, trembling. In her shaking hand she held Dusty, its faded blue fur darkened by soot. The star patch had torn slightly in the chaos. Inside something glimmered, a small metallic chip no bigger than a coin. Jack had been right. The truth was there all along. As she stared at the chip, the sound of another engine echoed from the distance. Steady, deliberate. Headlights appeared through the storm. And standing in front of them, waving frantically with both arms, was Edward Langley. The rain was falling harder now, pelting the windshield of Hannah's truck like 1,000 needles. Her knuckles were white as she gripped the steering wheel, eyes darting to the rearview mirror. 2 headlights loomed close behind. The black SUV was relentless, swerving left and right, trying to push her off the narrow mountain road. The Rockies stretched ahead, jagged and merciless. One wrong turn and the truck would plunge hundreds of feet down. The engine roared, tires screeched against the wet asphalt. She could barely see through the mist when a gunshot shattered the night. The rear window exploded. Another shot, her front tire burst. The truck skidded violently, spinning toward the edge. God, no! She gasped, slamming the brakes. The trailer swayed like a wounded beast, teetering over the cliff. For a split second, she saw the endless darkness below. The entire world tilted. Then, a blinding pair of headlights appeared ahead. A silver sedan screeched to a halt across the road. Out stepped Edward Langley. His coat was drenched, his eyes burning with something between fury and fear. He waved frantically, running toward her. Hannah! Hold on. She froze. How does he know my name? The SUV stopped a few yards behind her. Doors slammed. 2 armed men stepped out, followed by a woman in a black coat, Evelyn Langley. Her face was calm, almost regal, the voice on the radio now horrifyingly real. Put the gun down, Edward, Evelyn called out, her tone sharp, commanding. She doesn't remember who she is. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Edward ignored her. He climbed onto the truck's running board, reaching for the door. Hannah, look at me. You're my daughter. Please remember. The world blurred. Hannah's breath caught as flashes of memory pierced through the fog. Music playing softly, the scent of lavender perfume. A man laughing as he lifted her onto his shoulders. Daddy, higher! A little girl's voice echoed in her mind. She blinked hard, clutching her head. No, that's not real. My name is Hannah. But Evelyn's voice cut through the rain like a knife. Your real name is Madeline Langley. You were taken from us 22 years ago. And this man, she pointed the gun at Edward, is the reason everything fell apart. Edward turned, fury flashing in his eyes. You're the one who wanted her gone. You paid Malone to kill her. For a moment, silence hung heavy, broken only by the wind howling through the canyon. Then Evelyn's mask cracked. She was never supposed to die, she hissed. You don't understand what that girl represented. She was proof of everything I'd lost. The SUV's men raised their weapons. Hannah's heart pounded. Time slowed. Then came the gunfire, loud, deafening. Bullets tore through metal. Edward pushed Hannah out of the way, and pain exploded across his chest. He staggered back, collapsing near the edge. Dad! She screamed. The word slipped out instinctively, raw and trembling. Edward's eyes softened. You remember my little bear? He tried to smile, blood staining his lips. Evelyn hesitated, lowering her weapon for a fraction of a second. The sound of approaching sirens echoed through the canyon. Red and blue lights flickered through the fog. Detective Daniel Harper's voice roared through a megaphone. Drop your weapons. Step away from the truck. The armed men panicked, firing at the shadows. The police returned fire. In the chaos, Evelyn tried to run, but Hannah grabbed her arm. Their eyes locked, one filled with shock, the other with years of confusion and pain. "Why me?" Hannah asked, tears streaming down her face. "Why would you do this?" Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. "Because losing you destroyed me. Finding you now would destroy the man who took everything from me." Her gun slipped from her hand as Harper tackled her to the ground. The night finally fell silent. Paramedics rushed in, pulling Edward from the edge. He was alive, barely. Hannah knelt beside him, gripping his hand. The rain had stopped. The air was still, almost peaceful. Through his fading breath, Edward whispered, "You're safe now. Maddie, you're home." And for the first time in 22 years, she believed him. 6 weeks later, the Langley estate stood quietly under the golden light of dawn. The ivy-covered walls and marble pillars no longer felt like symbols of power. They felt like memories reclaimed. Hannah walked through the grand doors not as a stranger, but as Maddie Langley, the name that had once been taken from her. Edward was waiting by the window, a blanket draped over his shoulders, his smile faint but full of life. The scars on his chest were a reminder of what he'd risked and what he'd regained. When Maddie approached, he held out a delicate necklace with a small star pendant. "This belonged to you," he said softly. "You used to call it your lucky star." Tears welled in her eyes as she clasped it around her neck. Then it found its way back, just like me. In the weeks that followed, Maddie founded the Maddie Langley Foundation, dedicated to helping missing children reunite with their families. What was once her deepest wound became her purpose, a light for those still lost in the dark. On the fireplace mantel of the Langley estate sat a small, worn teddy bear named Dusty, the one the truck driver had once given her. Now it watched over the house like a silent guardian, a witness to a story of loss, redemption, and love rediscovered. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.